Who killed Bonnie? A question as old as December 21st, 2021. Glamrock Bonnie is a mystery with no reason to solve it. As of Ruin, we have the body, but come that point, nobody is really around to care. All the bots are either mindless, Roxy, or a headless Glamrock Freddy. It's a mystery that has no reason to actually solve. Nobody who knew Glamrock Bonnie well enough is around to care anymore. The only one who does is not in the Pizzaplex right now, and is nothing more than a head. Not even Cassie seems to care, as upon stumbling into the room, there's no reaction from her. Maybe because she didn't canonically see it, but you'd think with all the collectibles showing she has some thoughts around the mystery of where he went, it's just odd she doesn't have a reaction. But there is somebody who does care, or rather a lot of people who do care. Us, the audience. In the base game we have a small side story, and I'll show the logs and explain this whole story. Missing. Security report. 12:24 AM. Bonnie seen leaving his green room in Rockstar Row, heading towards the East Atrium. 2:40 AM. Bonnie enters the East Arcade. 4:12 AM. Bonnie enters Monty Golf. Understudy. Management report. With Bonnie out of commission, we are making Monty the new bass player. Parts and services have already done the proper adjustments. This could be a good thing. Monty could be even more popular than Bonnie. False alarm. Monty upgrade. Monty log. Monty. Montgomery's claw upgrade allows him to play the bass. Following performances, he mostly uses them to cause damage. The fence repairs are getting costly. Retheme. Management report. The bowling alley needs a retheme. While most of Bonnie's art was removed, kids keep asking where's Bonnie. Do we have an officially approved response? So, Bonnie leaves his green room, which he ruins retcon to be in Bonnie Wall. This is just a straight up retcon, there's not really working around this. This is a retcon. He leaves and get lost in Monty Golf after fucking around in the Atrium and West Arcade for 4 hours, likely just having fun as we can assume the other bots do. Then he goes into Monty Golf where he goes missing. After some time, the Pizzaplex, presumably the higher ups, decide to make Monty part of the band as the new bass player, giving him the claws needed to play the bass. But after a while, Bonnie being gone, the staff start to wonder what to do with Bonnie Ball. And by the base game, we can see nothing has been done. Just while we're here, I want to talk about a few things before moving on. I've heard a lot of people say that Monty's claws come from Bonnie, but nothing in the base game actually says that. Not a thing. What we're actually told is that Monty had adjustments made to his claws. Not that he was given the claws of somebody else. Which you can assume he did get them from Bonnie in the base game, if we didn't have Ruin. Because we're shown that Freddy is weirdly compatible with highly specialized upgrades. So it does seem like you can mix and match the upgrades without really much issue. But what also points me to this is that Roxy and Freddy have the same kind of claws. Nothing about Monty's claws is visually different from them besides being painted a different colour. It's likely they just messed around with a few stats or maybe gave it some more reinforcement instead of just slapping new ones in there. Which is interesting, because if you remember from my prototype video, I did mention that the claws there were Monty's. Now, of course, I said that because prototype is an asset flip of Shattered Freddy. But this is probably the one area where you can argue that those claws could have just been Freddy's. I don't believe it, but you could argue it. Although again, the icon when we pick them up doesn't show that. It shows we take the whole thing, the endoskeleton inside of it and all. Another thing to point out is we have a very clear retcon here in Ruin. In Ruin we find Bonnie's green room and it's in Bonnie Ball, not Rockstar Row. I've heard ideas like Monty took Glam's Bonnie room, but what evidence is there for this? Again, it's one of those things where you could technicality your way into it, but looking at the way this room is set up, some level of thought was put into this. Like, say, the giant Freddy poster on the wall. If this was, say, a shrine to Bonnie or something, why would a Freddy poster be there? Why would half the decoration of this room be Freddy themed? We know those two are so close they're practically dating, let's not kid ourselves here. So, what? Was it just somebody figured that bit out and wanted to try and make a shrine to Bonnie and his BF or something? No, I do think this is just them retconning something, and given Tails has Monty's green room there from very early on. It does seem like Bonnie's was just out of the way, but Monty got one in Rockstar Row. Weird decision, but maybe Bonnie was meant to be highly specialized to Bonnie Ball, then got added to part of the main band, and then got taken off and decommissioned? It's a mess, I don't want to get into it. And something else to mention is that Bonnie Ball and Phasablast, at least in the base game, are connected. The door in Vanny's room was meant to lead into the basement area where we find the VIP collectible of Bonnie Ball. Of course, this was taken out and cut, and come Ruin, they've completely changed what that doorway actually leads to. But again, Phasablast and Bonnie Ball were really linked in the base game, and then in Ruin, they were really linked again. Which could just show more of Freddy and Bonnie just wanting to be roommates, as it were. Yes, I do ship Bonnie and Freddy because there's actual in-game evidence. And if you're going to say, oh, they can't because they're robots. First of all, Charlie, explain that one. Second of all, that's aphobic as fuck. Alright, let's move on to who actually killed Bonnie. First, we should talk about what we know about the damage of Bonnie. We can see his chest was ripped open, green covering of what it was shattered around his chest, his legs are completely detached from his torso, and his eyes are glowing until you turn off the wet floorboards. His red eyes then visible. The location we find him in is behind the bowling alleys of Bonnie Ball. So, who killed him and who could have caused this? The first character I'm pushing to the side is Chica. Not because I don't want her to be or anything, there's just no evidence that it was Chica. And there's no evidence saying it wasn't Chica because Chica and like characters like DJ Music Man and the Mini Music Man have nothing to do with this mystery. So they're pretty much eliminated just because there's nothing around them that connects them to this mystery in any way, shape or form. Next up is Gregory. Gregory is shown destroying the bots in the base game, and thanks to Tails we know that despite not being in Glam Freddy's registry, Gregory has been in the Pizzaplex because he's Patient 46 and GGY and, you know, there's all this other stuff going on. However, that then brings up the motive thing, which is going to be a running theme as you'll see. In the game, Gregory is trying to destroy the bots to stop them from killing him. And while never directly stated, he likely does know that Vanny isn't locked to the Pizzaplex like the bots are, and if Vanny got to him, the bots could have their chance to kill him. Dismantling the bots does serve multiple purposes, but given how they're shattered, I don't think this was Gregory. But keep in mind the ways they were shattered. We'll come back to it later. Up next is Mimic!
Are you in there?
The stupid door won't open.
Well, it looks like someone poured concrete over the door. How am I supposed to get rid of concrete?
Tricked you. I really don't know what it is, but it's been trapped down here a really long time.
Yeah, Mimic didn't do this. Not with what the game tells us about the timeline around the Mimic. I know I used Tails before, but Tails is questionably canon, and it has some issues in saying it's confirmed when a merry-go-round shows up. It's kind of like rushing the gun, you know? Especially with Ruin ignoring Bobby Dots. I will drill this into the ground! Bobby Dots is brought up more in Ruin because of showing more of the daycare attendant's theater origins, and is then ignored because of Eclipse. So, the Mimic story doesn't contradict anything in the base game. You know, it doesn't really... It's complicated to work around because I haven't fully read them, but going off of what I heard, it doesn't actually contradict that much. Like, we've had future games contradict past games before, you know, it's not exactly uncommon. But even if you take Mimic Line into account, he's kind of stuck in the basement for the entire story. And I guess this is like a touchy subject, but burn trap anyone? This is when we go to Vanessa and Vanny. Being the same person, I'm bunching them together. Now, being the only security guard at the Pizzaplex, Vanessa would be the one to report on this. However, when we take Tails into account, we see that Monty was a part of the band really early on. So it is possible that other security guards were still around at the time, as the all-staff project does seem to be something done about midway through the lifespan of the Pizzaplex. Now, there was a fan theory going around, and I used to believe this, saying that Vanny did it to get the parts to rebuild Burn Trap. However, Ruin's showing us he doesn't fucking exist, and that his ending, the ending where he's taken by the blob, didn't happen, and the blob would have to do things that we never see it do in the base game or ruin in order to get him sneakily without anything going wrong. Yeah, I don't think this was the explanation, and now we have Bonnie's body as well. So, you know, we have the DLC that gave us Bonnie's body, and then also showed us Burntrap didn't exist. I think it's not hard to put two and two together to say one didn't mean the other. And then there's also the issue of Burntrap being an asset flip of a Spring Bonnie model from Help Wanted that never made it into that game. Which, as we've already shown, asset flips are not uncommon for Steel Wool. You know, I get it does save on development costs and that, but it does mean we have to kind of like approach things at a weird angle. And now with Burntrap not being there, we again have to ask the motive question. Why? And with Vanessa, it's kind of nothing there, but they share the same body, so I kind of had to throw her in here, whether, you know, you like that or not. Now we have some characters who have some real things going for them. I'll start with the one who has the least chance of doing it, Glamrock Freddy. Now if you didn't see my last video, as I've already brought up before, Prototype is not a different bot. And as such, I will not be taking that into account because there's no proof around it, other than like, what, one texture and some claws you could kind of finagle your way into making a plot point. I mean, if you want to argue the different bots, go watch my last video so you know what points I made, so you actually know what to combat against instead of trying to combat something I have already disproven. So, why would Freddy do this? That's a great question right there. There's the possibility that Glitchtrap made him do it, but again, why? Glitchtrap would have no reason to with Burntrap not taking the parts. Plus, Bonnie should have also been under Glitchtrap control as well. While he doesn't have a real motive, I can't help but acknowledge it'd be really frickin' tragic to have Freddy to be the one to kill his boyfriend, probably. Well, his probably boyfriend. But like I said, no real reason you can give. And given that half of Bonnie's green room is dedicated to Freddy with a giant Freddy poster on the wall, that sends you straight to Freddy's attraction, the pair just seems to be really close. And thanks Ruin for showing us that when animatronics get really close to someone, it can break them out of Glitchtrap's control. Or whatever Glitchtrap's doing to them. Thanks Roxy, you did something good for once. So, you might have been noticing that as we've been going through this, the issue of motive keeps coming up. As it stands, none of us suspects had the motive to do so. And with us seeing the body in-game, the same game where Peepaw just suddenly doesn't exist, and Glitchtrap is back around in the form of the Mexus entity, or at least Oof Troop and his friends point that out. A lot of around the Mexus entity points to the murderous manipulative rabbit entity in Mexus is the same murderous manipulative rabbit entity in the VR game. From the way they carry themselves, to how they walk, to they wave, to only using a device that you strap to your face to interact with the victims. Which is weird, because Cassie has an eye chip that lets see Helpy IRL, but not the entity. And there's a behavioural issue thing, and I could just make a whole other video about this, and who knows, maybe I will. But the point is, you know, Burntrap no longer existing means we have a lot less reasons anybody would want to do this. Because Burntrap's body needing Bonnie was the only explanation you could give for really anybody doing it. But now that Burntrap just kinda doesn't fucking exist, nobody has any real motive. So now we're left with only two real candidates, Roxy and Monty. Roxy is only this high up because of one thing. Her claws are green. That's basically it. The damage on Glam Bonnie has green across them, but there is an issue here. Only her fingernails are green, not the whole of her fingers. And given how much green there is, this wasn't just paint transfers from her nails. And then again we have the motive issue. Why would Roxy kill Bonnie? Heck, even when Glitchtrap has taken over her and made her more aggressive, we see her snapping out of it momentarily when Freddy walks through the room, snapping herself back to shoot Freddy out. And then of course in Ruin, snaps her into being nice when she finds Cassie. Although the death cutscene shows she is more than willing to body slam Cassie and bite of 83 her. This brings us to the final culprit, Monty. Look at his fingertips. While his nails aren't green, the final segment of his segmented fingers are green. Look at how much green is on Bonnie's chest. And then also take a look at how he destroys the catwalk shooters, dragging his claws across them, leaving scratch marks on them. And since the shooters are green, we don't get to see if he drags any green across them. But he does leave deep claw marks on the shooters, ones that match up with Glam Bonnie. So, the claw marks and green line up. What about the torso being split in half? Well, would you look at Shattered Monty for me really quick? Split in half. And apparently this is an uncommon thing. Monty Mischief. Errant behaviour report. Monty didn't show up for the main stage performance again. We found him in the same place we always do. The catwalks over Monty Golf. We can't have a repeat of last month. Somebody hit a hole in one of the hurricane bucket and knocked him down. Both legs were destroyed and required immediate parts on service work. When he falls from the catwalks, he consistently breaks his legs, to the point where staff seem fully aware of this issue, but are unfazed until it affects them, based workers. And given that the last place Bonnie was found was Monty Golf, him falling from the catwalk during Monty beating the shit out of him, it's not impossible. And given that Bonnie is broken in the same way Monty was, excluding the claw marks, which we've already explained away, yeah, I'd say it's likely Bonnie fell from the Monty catwalks after Monty had already gone in and scratched him up, you know, attacking him in the same way he does the shooters. I mean, take a look at the screenshot I've got here, and then take a look at Glam Bonnie's marks here. Same kind of scratch marks Monty leaves on these things. Heck, they're both broken in the same way down to how the jaw moves in the base game, and, you know, the fact they're split in half. As for motive, there are multiple ways you can explain it. The one to shoot down immediately is Vanny used Monty to kill Bonnie, but as we already established, Vanny had no reason to. But Monty does have a few reasons to. First of all, he's aggressive. He's the kind of person to start a fight because he's fucking bored. And come ruin, he is just a chihuahua. He is just a fucking dog, come ruin. He's pretty animalistic, and if he acts like an actual alligator, something not real name, not at all, pointed out, you want to take out the other male to be the dominant male? Heck, his death animation in the base game is the same kind of rolling moves real alligators do. So, you want a motive? Him being a territorial animal who wants to take out the other males? Yeah, that is a motive. And it's like, he's the only one who has anything that could resemble a motive, especially now we have the body. And if you want to bring up the Monty ride, I bring up the fact it's propaganda made by Fazbear Entertainment to explain Bonnie's disappearance to the kids who are asking non-stop, and why Monty was suddenly boosted in importance. Again, as shown with the Bonnie Ball message earlier, we're still midway through making the transition over when we get to the base game, as the Gator ride seems completely done, but Bonnie Ball is still Bonnie Ball, even in Ruin it's still Bonnie themed. Heck, something I pointed out in my Ruin review is that Monty dies to a Bonnie cutout. And why have Monty die to Bonnie unless the inverse happened first? It's karmic justice that way, and it's just more evidence for it, really. So, who killed Bonnie? Shocker of all shockers, it was the angry, aggressive one who has green fingers, and whose attraction is where Bonnie went missing. But there's something else to talk about. Ruin. In Ruin, he has some sort of connection with the wet floor bots, and the wet floor bots are trapped with souls in the game, a soul counter specifically. And then there's where we find him. He's in Bonnie Ball. Now, why is he here if we last saw him in Monty Golf? Well, I think Not Real Name, Not At All also came up with a good explanation for this, being that Monty dragged him there using some of the carpet only seen in Monty Golf to cover up his tracks, destroying a bowling ball to try and cover his ass when anybody looked at this and saw that it's clearly him, so he'd be like, nah, the bowling ball did it, it wasn't me, you can't prove it. But then, like, anybody who looks at this could have seen it's the same kind of damage done to the catwalks and there's too much green for it to not be Monty. Like, I do think it's possible Monty is trying to cover all of his bases, but being a massive idiot, he's not realizing that the bowling ball excuse wouldn't line up with us finding him. All the damage done to him, and there's always the possibility us finding him is non-canon, and it was just Steele trying to give some closure, and he isn't actually there, and he's still somewhere in Monty Golf. But I don't subscribe to that idea. So, with all that established, the angry and aggressive bot did it in his attraction, then tried to cover his own ass, but did a terrible job. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter, because nobody thought to check Bonnie Ball because he went missing in Monty Golf. While Monty's attempts to cover himself try and show he couldn't have done it clearly didn't matter, because Monty did the one thing that saved him overall. He moved the body where somebody would never look. Something that is pretty on brand for the series. Ayo, William Afton fans up in here. And so, we've solved who killed Glamrock Bonnie, and I am very confident in it being Monty. And I've broken down why it kinda has to be him. If you can think of anything I missed, do let me know. But until next time, take care. Bye!